overcrowded and overhyped, or deserving of a spot on your Greece itinerary? I visited Greece for the first time last October and actively tried to avoid Santorini. But while logistically that did not work, and I did end up in Santorini. So in this video, I am sharing whether or not Santorini was worth it in the end, how to make the most of your time there, and helpful travel tips like where to stay and how to get around. This is the second video in my Greece travel series, and there's plenty more to come, so make sure you hit subscribe. Cliffside pools, blue skies, and seaside sunsets all come to mind when we think about Santorini. But what is it really like there? When I realized I wouldn't be able to avoid Santorini, I decided to do my research to find ways to avoid the crowd crush that I was anticipating. Sometimes when a destination is so media popular, like Santorini is, we can start to make the assumption that we feel like we've already been there because we've seen so many photos and videos about it, and we feel like, there's not really anything to see, and why would I put myself through those crowds because everybody goes there and I've already seen it. And that is the assumption that I had about Santorini. I definitely fell into the trap of thinking that I don't really need to go there for myself and have no desire to. I am someone who majorly hates giant crowds. I find them overwhelming and stressful. Also, at the time I was planning my Greece trip, all of the videos that I was seeing of Santorini, they were the videos that were like, oh, expectation, and it's all idyllic and serene, and then reality, and it's people packed together like sardines trying to walk down a street. I just thought that looks miserable. Why would I subject myself to this? I don't care to be somewhere where I'm just being jostled around in a crowd of tourists. It just didn't look fun. And I will say that one thing I believe made my Santorini experience not that, aside from the fact that I carefully planned my itinerary to avoid very crowded areas, I also went in October. It was early October, like October 3rd through 5th, I think, but it was still October and it was not height of tourism season there. It was early enough that everything was still open for tourists, but late enough that there weren't crowds that bad from what I saw in the areas where I was. And then the other aspect of my Santorini trip and Santorini itinerary that made it enjoyable for me is that I really made an effort to explore lesser visited parts of the island. I dedicated one whole day to exploring Pyrgos and Megalokori, and these two areas are also super picturesque, very charming. They have great cafes and restaurants there, but they are also infinitely less crowded. I was completely by myself walking through some of these streets during peak daylight hours, late morning and early afternoon. These two are just as picturesque, but far less crowded than, let's say, Fira or Ia. I also realized I started having this realization in Santorini, but then definitely as I explored the rest of the Cyclades, that quintessential whitewashed building and blue accents and blue domed churches, those are everywhere. I think a lot of times when we see pictures, or at least the pictures I had seen of Greece and of Santorini, show the same iconic sites that have those views, and so it's easy to think, oh, I have to go there and get that picture. But actually, that beauty is characteristic of this island group, and I saw it everywhere. So you can definitely go to other parts of the island and other islands within this group and get just as beautiful views as you'll find in the more crowded, tourist popular areas. Getting out to explore other areas of the island also helped me to see the real Santorini. You see the island as a whole, and you might be surprised to know that not every inch of Santorini is drop dead gorgeous. It's just not, but it's real. I saw a lot of wide open fields with a lot of brown grass, a lot of areas that looked a little bit even deserted, or just empty spaces that were just brown on my bus rides around the island. And I also saw a couple of outstanding sunsets, beautiful sea views, incredible architecture, charming streets. It has it all. I myself am not much of a beach vacationer, but if that's your thing, you could also get out to Parissa and see the black sand beach. You could go and see a part of Santorini that looks like Mars. There's like a red beach. Safety might be a concern there. You want to make sure that you're careful about any falling rock and maybe go with the tour. Another must in Santorini is, of course, watching an epic sunset. To make this more enjoyable and crowd-free for myself, I made sure that I booked a hotel where I could have some kind of a private balcony where I would just get to be in my own company and view the sunset unhindered and unobstructed. I decided not to go to Ia for sunset. That is the main place people go to watch sunset from because it's gorgeous from there, and it's where everybody goes, which means there's a lot of crowding happening, and to me, that would take away from the enjoyableness of the experience experience of watching this gorgeous sunset. For other people, for you maybe, it might not. Maybe you like the feeling of, you know, having a lot of energy and people around you. And for me, I like that, but to a lesser degree. So I prioritized booking a caldera view hotel room. And this allowed me to go out, pick up some dinner, pick up some snacks, and then come back to my balcony, watch the sunset in peace. Now, you could also book a caldera view room in Ia if you prefer. If you want that iconic sunset view, you want to be in Ia, but you don't want to be around the crowds, then you can splurge a bit and get yourself a caldera view hotel room in that popular part of the island. You could also make reservations at a restaurant that has caldera views. The thing is, from what I've seen in Ia, even those restaurants, a lot of times general public will gather in front of the restaurant. And so even if you're sitting at the restaurant with the view, just know that your view might get obstructed and there might be people standing around you and near you as you're trying to eat your dinner and watch this view. So instead, maybe look at restaurants in other parts of the island. I do have a Santorini guide and I have a couple restaurants mentioned in there. I will link that guide in the description and you can check it out and see if those restaurants are up to par for what you're looking for. Alternatively, you could book a catamaran cruise at sunset. I did not do this, but it is a really popular thing to do in Santorini and it looks pretty fun. This will take you out onto the water. You'll be with the smaller group, and of course you'll have front row seats to the sunset. I mean, you may as well be in the sunset at that point. Another fun thing you can do in Santorini is go wine tasting. There are a couple established places where you can do this. Because of the volcanic soil, Santorini wine is something a little bit distinct, a little bit different, and popular for that reason. If you're into history, Santorini also has some archaeological sites that you could go explore. If you are into being active outdoors, you'll definitely want to do all or part of the hike between Ia and Fira. If nightlife is your scene, Santorini has a good nightlife scene as well, and plenty of shopping. So all that to say, there really is a lot that you can do in Santorini, and whether you're going by yourself or with a group of people, there is something that everyone is going to enjoy here on Santorini, and you can really customize and tailor your Santorini itinerary to look however you want it to, based on your unique interests. And I think that's a pretty big perk. But let's also talk about Ia. Just like I first resisted going to Santorini at all, once I was on Santorini, I started resisting the idea of going to Ia at all. But honestly, it probably would have been a bummer if I went all the way to Santorini and then just neglected Ia. Because, you know, it's true. Often places that are hyped up for a reason. And I wanted to see what was so special about Ia and so beautiful. And I wanted to do it on my terms. So I went early, like the sun was not even up. I took the first bus from Fira to Ia one morning, the morning that I was going to be actually leaving Santorini. I wanted to get there before anything was open and before people were really fully awake so that I could just wander through Ia and have it a little bit to myself. And although I am a travel blogger and travel content creator and now increasingly a travel video creator, I'm a traveler first. And so I did not see the appeal of going and doing a photo shoot, although it is a beautiful place and many people go and do photo shoots there. When I got off the bus at Ia, I did make my way to one of the popular photo spots to kind of check it out and see what was what, and so did everyone else on my bus. We were all going to the same place, and when we got there, again, super early, there was already a line. It seemed like people had been waiting for quite some time and people were dressed up and ready to get the same photo. Every single one. There was a line. Someone's done with their photo, you move up in line, you go and you stand in the spot, and everyone was getting the same exact photo. And listen, oh, it's a beautiful photo. It is. I get it. And I think it's funny, like we get to a point where we think, okay, if I don't go to this place and get this exact same photo, I may as well have not gone at all. It's like I never went. And that's just not true. If you want that photo and that's important to you, you do you. For me, that was not a priority. And I was able to snap some photos because a lot of Ia, a lot of Santorini is gorgeous. A lot of Greece is gorgeous. But we tend to see what the general public has deemed as picture perfect and gorgeous. And then we all go and we try to recreate that same photo. And I kind of get it. And it's just something that I'm processing the more that I travel and notice my own travel people behaviors and what destinations and parts of destinations are calling to me. And is that because we all just find the same thing beautiful, or because we think this is the shot we're supposed to have? This is just a broader thing that I have been thinking about and have been having conversations with my sister about, trying to understand. But what I did was snap some photos and then decided to take advantage of the fact that people were concentrated in this area to walk around the rest of Ia while the streets were empty. I had Ia to myself, essentially. And you know what? It is charming. It's beautiful. I went and got some incredible photos, took some video, and then I turned around and got right back on the bus and headed back to Fira, and I made it back to my hotel in time to have one last breakfast on my balcony before my checkout time. Now, my primary factor when deciding where to stay in Santorini was finding somewhere well connected to public transportation, because I did not want to rent a car, and that's how I decided to stay in Fira. So Fira is a very popular and well-connected part of Santorini. It's centrally located to anywhere that I would want to go to, and it is where the main bus station hub is. So that kind of sold it for me, and the hotel where I ended up staying was only a 5-minute walk from the main bus station. I also wanted a place with a great caldera view, again, because I wanted to watch my sunsets in peace. And so I spent a lot of time looking at a lot of hotel photos to find the one that would give me the view that I wanted. And then of course I wanted somewhere that was going to be reasonably priced, because I was doing a whole 3-week-long trip, and before that I was in Italy, and so I wasn't trying to break the bank on just this 2-night stay in Santorini. So I go into all the details of my exact stay and some additional recommendations in my Santorini blog post, which is linked in the description below. So read through those options and see if any of those are a good fit for you, and if they even have availability for your travel dates. A really important thing to note when you are looking for a hotel in Santorini is there is a difference between caldera view and sea view. You will see both as you do your research and look for hotel rooms. Santorini is famous for its caldera view, the volcanic crater, where you can see the water as well as the cliffside surrounding it. That crater view is what you want. Most likely, maybe you're okay with the sea view, but most likely you want a caldera view. So that's important to know if it's important to you. Let's talk about how to get around. If, like me, you decide that renting a car is not for you, you have a few options. Like me, you could choose to take the bus around. I took a bus from Santorini Airport to Fira, near my hotel, on the first day. I also took buses back and forth to get to Pyrgos and Megalokori, as well as from Fira to Ia and back. Each of those routes, one way, was €2, and you're going to want to have some cash on you. You'll get on the bus, and then as the bus starts going, someone will come around to collect your money and give you a ticket. There was only one time where there was no one. The bus driver didn't have a person to do this. So when we got off the bus is when we paid. It was simple and straightforward. You'll be able to find a bus schedule online. You'll be able to ask your hotel concierge, or whoever works at your hotel, for additional details and information if you need it. There were some times where I was waiting around for a bus when I was trying to get back somewhere, and there was a little bit of a delay, but nothing too extreme. The bus drivers might come off as a little bit gruff sometimes, but they really know what they're doing, and you can ask them questions and they will guide you. One of them guided me toward a different bus with a better route so I could get to my destination faster. So just be open to their advice. But yeah, they can be a little bit gruff. Just be prepared for that and don't take it personally. Another convenient but more expensive way to get around Santorini is to book private transfers. I did this once because I wanted to make sure I didn't miss my ferry off the island, so I had my hotel arrange for a private transfer to get me from the hotel with all my bags to the ferry port. You could also book a private day tour where you essentially have a private driver for your entire day, and in advance you can customize a full day tour with all of your stops that you're interested in for the day. So again, super convenient, really great if you are short on time and want to maximize your time there, but of course, more expensive. If you really value going at your own pace and being even further removed from crowds, you don't feel like figuring out the public transportation system, then this is the way to go. And there are a lot of great private drivers that you can hire, private tours that you can arrange while you're on Santorini. One last thing I want to talk about is Santorini expensive? This is a common question that comes up when you consider going to this destination. What I learned is that's really up to you. It really does depend. If you want to have a lavish, luxurious experience in Santorini where you are staying at a luxe hotel with incredible views, incredible amenities, private pool, private hot tub in the hottest part of town, great, go all out. You want all of the fancy dinners, all of the restaurants with a great view, really fine dining experiences, great, have the time of your life. In that case, Santorini will probably feel more expensive to you. On the other hand, if you want to take a €2 bus ride and grab a takeaway gyro sandwich for €6 and go and enjoy it on, your balcony or at the park or wherever, that's also an option. It really just depends on what kind of an experience you want and what kind of a budget you set for yourself. I did not find that Santorini was so much more unbearably expensive than a lot of other places that I've been in that part of Europe. But also keep in mind that I was there in October, which is off-peak season, so that maybe factors in too. So what do you think? Is Santorini worth it? My answer is yes. I'm so glad I did end up going to Santorini, and it was the perfect first impression and introduction for me to the rest of my Greece itinerary. I do think how you design your itinerary matters for how much you enjoy a place like Santorini, so be sure to check out my blog posts in the description. Subscribe for more Greece and beyond travel content.